Can you imagine a saint that liked to laugh? Who liked to get together with friends? Who liked mountain climbing and skiing? Struggled with his classes, had difficult parents, even loved a girl. He was just like any other young man, yet he had an immense love for Jesus that touched everyone around him and even the world. Pier Giorgio was born in Turin, Italy in 1901 to a wealthy family. His father owned La Stampa newspaper, one of the leading liberal newspapers of the time. His mother was an artist and a socialite. Pier's sister Luciana was born shortly after him. Despite their beautiful home and luxurious lifestyle, his parents fought constantly. Neither paid much attention to their children, unless it was to correct or criticize them. Pier's mother had great insecurities due to her unhappy marriage and kept the children isolated, not even allowing them to go to school. Luciana and Pier were each other's only companion, in addition to their poorly educated tutor. Yet even as a small boy, Pier Giorgio was always aware of others' suffering. One day his grandfather took him to a nursery school to visit one of the nuns during lunchtime. Pier Giorgio noticed a child sitting alone and sad due to a severe skin disease on his face. Without hesitation, Pier sat down beside him and began sharing his soup to cheer him up. On another occasion, a beggar woman came to the door of the Frassati home with her barefoot son. Pier Giorgio answered the door, and when he saw them, he took off his own shoes and socks and gave them to the mother, gingerly closing the door behind him so that no one would find out. Pier Giorgio struggled with his schoolwork his entire life. When he could not pass his grade-level tests, his father finally intervened. To Pierre's delight, he was sent to a Jesuit school at the age of 10. There, the example of the priests and their instruction fed Pier Giorgio's love for Jesus and Mary. He regularly began praying the rosary and attending daily Mass, something that his mother didn't like because she was desperately afraid he wanted to become a priest. As Pier Giorgio grew older, he became more and more conscious of the poor. Italy suffered terribly in World War I, and there were many orphans and widows in Turin. His father gave him very little spending money, but the little he received he spent on helping the poor. He would walk instead of using his train money, or wear his clothes until they were worn, all little sacrifices to help the less fortunate.
All around the sick and all around the poor I see a special light which we do not have. What wealth it is to be in good health as we are.
The Frassatis had big plans for their son, to marry a wealthy society girl and one day take over the family business. Pier always struggled with his studies and was not as ambitious as his father would have liked. In fact, Luciana recalls that Pier Giorgio never received a kind word from his father. Pier Giorgio wanted to become a mining engineer. Miners at the time worked in horrific conditions and were truly the working poor. Pier continued to study, help the needy, and attended Mass daily, but all in secret to keep conflict in the family to a minimum. He was also active in politics, speaking out against fascism, injustice, and always promoting the side of the church. He belonged to many organizations, both religious and political. He spent many evenings in front of the Blessed Sacrament in adoration. Despite his deep faith, people found him easy to be with and non-judgmental. He loved being with friends and going to the mountains. Sometimes he organized hikes and would invite a priest to say Mass along the way. He even fell in love with one of the girls in his group of friends. He wanted to reveal to her his feelings, but he knew that his mother would disapprove because she wasn't wealthy. The stir would cause a rift in his parents' already fragile marriage.
She is whom I loved, with a pure love, and today, in renouncing it, I desire her happiness. I urge you to pray that God gives me the Christian strength to bear it serenely, and that He gives her all earthly happiness.
Pierre's sister married and moved away. He was sad to lose his best friend and was left alone to withstand the criticisms and disapproval of his parents. He never let these things change his good humor. He was still joyful, fun-loving, and liked to be with people. He sang and recited poetry, went to the opera, studied. No one knew of his home struggles. His faith and the mountains were his solace. It took Pier Giorgio 5 years to complete his degree. He had worked so hard and he was so excited to begin working with miners. To Pierre's great disappointment, his father insisted he work at the newspaper. A few days after his graduation, Pier Giorgio felt ill and could barely get out of bed. This was unusual for a young man that rose every morning before the house woke up to attend Mass. His mother was peeved because her mother was also ill, and she wanted Pier Giorgio's help. He was diagnosed with a rapidly deteriorating form of tuberculosis, caught from one of the sick people he nursed. On July 4th, 1925, within 1 week of falling ill, Pier Giorgio died at the age of 24. On the day of his funeral, his parents opened the doors of the church to find the entire town of Turin outside, poor and rich alike, to mourn the loss of their beloved friend. They had no idea of his charity work or the immense impact he had on others. In 1981, Pier Giorgio's cause came up for veneration, and his tomb was opened. There lay his body, perfectly preserved, uncorrupted from the day he was buried, a sign of great holiness. He is one of the patron saints of Catholic youth today, and his life and witness of Christ's love continue to resonate with young people even 100 years later.
But you, bold and good young people, should not be afraid of this small thing. When God is with us, we don't have to be afraid of anything. There is nothing more beautiful than love. Verso l'alto, to the heights.